In this video, you're going to learn how to set up a Node.js project with TypeScript. We're going to create a simple Express application and we're going to write it with TypeScript, not JavaScript. Alright, so let's get started. First of all, let's see why would someone use TypeScript instead of JavaScript. Well, before answering that question, we should know that TypeScript doesn't replace JavaScript. It just makes writing JavaScript much more easier. TypeScript needs to be compiled into JavaScript before running, while JavaScript can be run directly on the browser. So, your TypeScript code eventually be compiled into JavaScript when you are running your project. So, why would someone write TypeScript and then compile it to JavaScript without writing JavaScript itself? Well, there are a few advantages of doing it. TypeScript allows you to define types for variables, which helps catching errors during development. This feature can prevent common bugs and improve code quality by providing better code understanding and tooling support. With its static typing and explicit type annotations, TypeScript code tends to be more readable and self-documenting. This can make maintaining and understanding the code base easier, especially in larger projects or when working in teams. Well, TypeScript provides object-oriented features like inheritance, classes, and interfaces. Better when handling null and undefined values. Type checking. This will allow us to catch errors during compile time, not runtime. So this makes it more safer and easy to fix errors during development. So these are some of the few advantages of using TypeScript. Alright, so now let's start setting up our application. Alright, so here I have an empty project. So I'm going to initialize my Node.js project by typing npm init. I'm going to open up the terminal and here I'm going to run npm init. This will walk me through some configurations for our Node.js project. So I'm going to keep the default name and the version and also the description. Let me type a simple node application, and I'm going to keep entry point as the default value and no test commands and no repository at the moment and no keywords. And for the author, I'm going to type my name and keep the default value for the license and yes. Alright, so we have our package.json file. Let me clear this out. And next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to install TypeScript. I'm going to type npm install and I'm going to install this as a development dependency. So -- save -dev and TypeScript. Just like this. Hit enter and this will install as a development dependency for your project. Alright, we have installed TypeScript. Alright, so what's next? Well, every TypeScript project has a configuration file called tsconfig.json. So it's a JSON file. Let me create that file. tsconfig. Oops. Just like this. Hit enter and it will create the file. So here I need to add some configuration as a JSON. So as the first property, the root property, I'm gonna add compiler options, and here as sub properties I have some properties to add. First of all, I'm gonna add module. This specifies the module system that TypeScript should use when generating output files. To further explain, your application is set of one or more modules, right? So this defines how these modules are connected and stuff like that. You can put values like CommonJS, AMD and UMD. So CommonJS is the format that is widely used in Node.js environments. Alright, so I'm going to use CommonJS for this property. And the next property is module interrupt. So I'm going to set this as true, and this defines how TypeScript handles interoperability between ES6 modules. For example, import and export syntaxes and stuff like that. And the next property is target. This means which version of JavaScript to compile to. So we're gonna use ES6, which is commonly used and most stable version of JavaScript. And the next property is module resolution. So there are two possible values for this module resolution property. Actually, this determines how TypeScript should search for its modules. So we have two possible values, which is node and classic. The classic is the one, it's the older module resolution strategy. So now we are using node. Alright, so we have two more properties, which is source map. I'm gonna set it to true. Source map is like a guidebook that helps developers debug and understand their code better. When you write TypeScript and then it compiles into JavaScript, especially when the code is minified or transformed, the resulting JavaScript code can be very hard to trace back to the original TypeScript code during debugging. So source map provides a way to bridge this gap. So that's why we are using source map. And last but not least, we have another property called outdir. So this specifies the output directory where TypeScript compiler should place the compiled JavaScript files. So I'm going to put dist as the value. So these are the configurations we have to put in our tsconfig.json file. Well, there can be more properties based on the complexity of the application, but for now these will do just fine. Alright, so TypeScript configuration is complete. Now let's install Express to create our application. So in the terminal, I'm gonna type Express, and this will install Express package. And here we must install an additional package called Types Express. Let me install that by typing npm install types/express. Well, this package will enable Express to support TypeScript by telling TypeScript what are the class types Express package contains. Alright, so Express is installed and let's write our application. Here I'm going to create a new folder called src, and inside that I'm going to create a new file called index.ts. NodeJS, since we are writing TypeScript, the file extension should be ts. Alright, inside this let's write a basic web server for our Node.js application. First I'm going to import Express. and then let's create our Express instance called app, just like this. And then let's define the port. What is the port number? Like, let's use 3000. And then let's define a route, a get route to access our application. And let's define a callback function, request and response. Well, if you have previous experience with Node.js, this should be familiar for you. Okay, let's send some response. Let's say it works just like this. And alright, so we define our route, and let's define the web server. The app should be listening to port number, which is 3000. And let's define another callback function, and let's console log something when our application is running. Alright, so what we did here was we created a basic web server using Express. First we create an application using Express instance, and then we set up a route to handle HTTP GET request, and a callback function will be called, returning it works. And finally we are creating a server and making it listen to port 3000 for incoming connections. And that's how a basic Node.js server works. Alright, so now let's try to run this application. Like I mentioned earlier, we should compile this TypeScript code and generate a JavaScript code to run our application. To do that, we can define a script in our package.json file. Here in the script section, let me create a new script called build. And here for the value I'm going to type tsc, which is TypeScript compiler. Alright, so now in the terminal, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run npm run build. So this will build our TypeScript application and generate JavaScript code. So as you can see, a new folder created called this. Well, that's because in our tsconfig file we defined output directory as this. This is a short form for distribution. So here we have as you can see, JavaScript files, minified ones, and we have JavaScript files based on our TypeScript application. So now we can run this JavaScript files as node index, and our application is running. Let's open up a web browser and type localhost, and it returns the text it works. Alright, so one more thing to be added before finishing this up. Let's install another package called tsnodediv. Let me install npm install -- save dash dev. It is also a development dependency. No ts node dev. So what it does is it will auto compile and restart our application when files are modified. This will make the development process much faster. Alright, so we installed the package. Now in the package.json file, in the script, let's define another script called dev, and here as the value, let me type ts node dev, the package name we just installed, and dash dash watch. Let's define the files we want to watch. I'm just going to include the index file inside the source folder. Index.ts file and the source folder. Alright, so this will watch this index file and the rest of the files inside the source folder. Alright, so let's run this now. Npm run. Since we added this code to the dev script, let's type dev, npm run dev, hit enter, and let's see what happens. And it is running. Our application is running. Now let's make some changes to our index file, and let me add another exclamation mark here and hit save, and it is restarting and compiling automatically. Let's open up the browser and let's check. Now we have 2 exclamation marks, and let's make some more changes. Hit save, and again it's restarting. Reload. Yes, so the app has been automatically compiled and restarted. Alright, so that's how you set up a Node.js project with TypeScript. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next video.